is Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Victor Fakondo Sr. And we're going to be discussing his incredible book, Assimilation of Immigrants in the Mosaic Land. It's Amazon, it's a lot of other places, but most importantly, check out his personal site, fakondobooks.com. There, gather more information on him, more information on his book, hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. I'm telling you, you want to gather what he has? fakondobooks.com. Yeah, that's where you gotta go. And I want to quickly take this opportunity and point out the fact that he was brought to us by City of Books. So for my writers out there listening in, if you've gone through your process and now you find yourself in a difficult position because you've spent all of this time creating this book, you brought it to fruition, but now you need help moving it, head on over to cityofbooks.com and gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is equipped to help you do just that. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have the Reverend Doctor here on the line. People, what does it truly cost to chase the American dream? Now, listen, I think that is a deep question. And it's one that carries a much different answer today than it did maybe when my parents were chasing it all those years ago. It's going to be even more varied when my children are chasing it. Listen, today we're going to sit down and we're going to talk to Dr. Victor Fakondo because, listen, we often talk about assimilation as a checklist. He's here to show his profound journey of navigating prejudice, preserving identity, and finding where his piece fit in the national mosaic. Listen, this is a powerful book, people, and I promise you, it is going to reframe the entire immigrant experience, not as a problem to be solved, but as a story of incredible strength. It's one that I'm very much looking forward to. As a family that has a number of people, my mother included, who were immigrants that came to this country looking for a better life, looking for more opportunities, this conversation is layered, and especially where we see where we currently are, not only in this country, but in the world, and the outlook, right? The view that we have on immigrants and how immigrants are treated. Man, this is a profound conversation and one that we need to have. And I'm so excited to have the Reverend Doctor here on the line to discuss it. Sit back, strap in. This is a complex discussion, and we're only going to scratch the surface. You're going to need to purchase your copies to gather it all. Reverend Dr. Fakondo, welcome to the network, and thank you for being with us. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. I'm good. Thank you for having me, sir. I'm so excited and thrilled.
Listen, man, the excitement goes both ways. We're looking forward to this discussion. I do think that this is a wonderfully timed book. We're learning from your journey, but in a way, it's going to hold a mirror to where we currently are as a society. And I think a lot of discussions are going to arise because of it. So we're looking forward to it, man. First and foremost, start off at the ground floor, man. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Benji Cole. I am Victor Fakondo Sr. I arrived in the United States in 1981 from a small country of Sierra Leone on the west coast of Africa. I came and I was able to do multiple degrees. The first degree I had was in chemistry. My intention was to go to medical school, but that did not go through. So I deviated from there and I went to pharmacy school. Got my BS in pharmacy and I got my BS in chemistry. Then after that, I went back to school, got my multiple degree, PharmD. I got a master's degree in theology, a master's degree in MBA, and I did another degree, which I was finished that degree yet, and I was hoping to finish it up, but I said, let me get to something that's much exciting than just reading books. And my passion has been really of ministry and helping others. The journey that I went through, I didn't want any of those immigrants like myself go through that same issues. So I've been there and I've been helping a lot of people to how to assimilate into society. That you come from Ghana, Haiti, America, and all of those guys have been walking through that line, trying to be able to have it much easier than I went through. My journey was very challenging. So I had to go through a whole lot. But then I said, if I have to go through all of, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. So I don't expect other folks to go through that same routine, that same pathway that I took. Then after that, when I went to school, I finished my theology degree, and I was ordained in the 2014. So prior to that, I was a deacon in the church that we founded in 1993. But then at that time, I was not really excited to become pastor. The naive course I had was not really called to be a pastor. So I had that little bit of challenge in my life. I said, no, I don't think I am called to ministry. And I got people telling me, oh, you're called, you have all the talent, and you have all of that. I said, no, I don't know. I don't think so. But it came very profound when I went to Israel and Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a place they call Wedding World. So I placed my petition to God. I said, God, if you want me to do a ministry, show it to me in the dream. Show it to me as where I can be able to navigate through that journey. So that's how I was able to become pastor. Fast forward, it came to a point when I was doing this course, something I call 10 messages to people that call it morning vitamins for the spirit. And so I thought I was just doing myself fun by just telling people, and oh, this book is great, this Washington Center is great. Why can't you put it in a book? I said, in a book, that's not my intention though. My intention was just to have 10 scriptures, prayers, and all that for folks to get from that. But then she insisted, you know what, you see, we can write a book from there. So I said, I've never thought of writing a book. I said, but if you have any ideas, please help me out with that. So my first book was Morning Devotion for Morning Vitamins for the Scripture. Vitamin because since I'm a pharmacist and I know much about pharmacists, so I just added a vitamin, make it more insightful. And then after that, she wrote the first book in 2023. What she did was she and I wrote that book. I sent information to her and she would respond back to me. And she said, oh, okay, you need to add this, you need to add this, delete, and all of that. So we went through that whole procedure for like about 10 weeks, 10 months, sorry. And she said, okay, this is good. So now we can publish. The first book was Morning Vitamins for the Spirit. But there's one thing about writing books. Once you write one book, the urge is there to write more books. So then I said, you know what, maybe I should do it by my upbringing because I came here in the 20s. So you know what, maybe let me just write my experience that I had or I went through in this great mosaic. I keep calling it mosaic. You say, why are you calling it a mosaic? Is for everybody else to enjoy the part of the American dream. So that's why I search it in my due diligence. I make a lot of research about it. And then I sent it for that time. She told me she was very busy. She cannot write another book at that time. She said, give me 2 years. But the art was there that I should really write about this, my experience. So what I did was I went on Google and I find the Citi books. So the Citi books had the privilege to have the responsibility and the tax of writing the book. And my story begins really with a Christian upbringing. Where I was raised by my father, who was a pastor. Where scripture and church life were very central in our life. That foundation led me into pastoral ministry, where I've served for more than decades, counseling families, helping communities navigate both spiritual and practical challenges Alongside ministry, I became an educator. Later founded a technical institute that has trained thousands of students, many of them immigrants striving to succeed in the U.S. Balancing those two callings, ministry education, has given me a unique advantage. I've seen both the barriers immigrants face and the resilience they bring. That background is what helped shift my voice as an author and gave me the drive to write books that speak of hope, healing, and inclusion.
Listen, I think this topic of conversation is something that is remarkably compelling. Because, listen, when we're talking about immigrants and immigrants anywhere, right? Of course, we're talking specifically about to this country, but listen, let's call it a spade. Like, whenever anyone is traveling and moving to a new country, a new area, the responsibility of assimilation is often placed solely on the immigrant. Now, I think that this is an interesting concept here and really something I think worth exploring. What is one concrete, actionable thing established Americans can do to be better stewards of this mosaic, to make the process less traumatic and more welcoming for the immigrants that are traveling to the country? What can they do so it's not always just an assimilation from the immigrant standpoint, but we can be more welcoming, I'm sure?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things is the Mosaic Land, where comes every Jews and Gentiles from different parts of the world. And I applaud them for their efforts. And I commend them because I look at other countries where they have restrictions on being how they welcome you is make us commendable. I always say to myself, and others that I've always come contact with, we should commend this country. But the simple fact that they're able to, it doesn't matter. You can come here, an immigrant, and you can go to school, you can chop from the American dream. Whatever it is you can do, you can do it. The sky is the limit. Sound loud. The sky is the limit. But if you're willing, like the Bible, if you're willing and obedient, you take the fruit of the land. And that is what I thought when I saw it. I said, no. I'm willing? Yes, I'm willing. I want to eat out of their land. But it makes this country very grateful. I mean, in assimilation to some, you're going to go through some issues or problems. How many people we accept the fact that you came from different lands and you get it out of all these benefits? How many people accept that? But if you're resilient and all of that, I believe you can conquer that. Not to say what I went through is easy. College, we only have 2 blocks there. And I know what I went through. And I came from there, at the job, pharmacists, they will leave me alone. So the other minorities or what's that, they'll go on vacation, they'll go on the lunch, and they leave me alone. But that time when I said, why do you have to go through this humiliation? I said, no, what? Enjoy it. Because I was not born here. I came. So I have to be able to, to let go of some of the challenges in my life. That makes me much of a man that can say, what? Regardless of what I go through, I will take the challenges.
Listen, the title of your book, I think, is remarkably compelling. And specifically the usage of the word mosaic. Because, listen, historically, and I remember growing up when I was in school, like the common phrase that's utilized and thrown around when it's talking about America is a melting pot. I don't think it was on accident that you decided to use mosaic rather than melting pot. And I want to now dive into that a little bit more in depth. Why is this metaphor more accurate and even perhaps more hopeful than the traditional melting pot idea?
Okay, that's a great question, sir. The word mosaic actually came, at one point I was also an activist. Not in any negative way, but I was really to the point where I was fighting for my own stance. And so every time we go to meetings, and I hear people say mosaic, that they make reference to New York. New York I'm sure New York has every Jews and Gentiles. And they don't normally refer to it as the melting point. New York is a mosaic land that welcomes everybody that wants to make it in life. To an extent, I had a friend who, when we go to New York to other social activities, the one day I asked him, I said, what is mosaic? So I Googled Mosaic Land. Mosaic is what? It's a country everybody has capacity to tap into that whole cake, I can say, for lack of a better word. I can go there and snatch or get a piece of that cake. So I say, you know what? That's definitely a good definition I can use. So when I was writing this book, when I had this plan for that, I said, you know what? If I put melting point, in fact, I think my publisher had just said, I said, no, I want Mosaic Land. So why? I said, I explained to him exactly what my thought was for using the word Mosaic Land. Melting point, absolutely great, but I thought it's not just the fact that if you go try to strive to get to each part of that land and all that, people say, the American dream, get your house. There's so much far better than those just taking the housing part of it. Like a school, college, at a job, I know what I got from those two areas. So the idea of writing melting points, absolutely great. But I choose to use Mosaic because I know it will portray exactly my experiences that I have, the experience that I have from other folks. That's why I use the word Mosaic. Assimilation, to some people have argued, well, what's the difference between assimilation and assimilation? We all come, as newcomers, become part of American life. They're losing the best of our heritage.
Yeah.
We join the history, the community stories, practical policy ideas. I show what exactly helps immigrants learn, work, worship, and belong, while strengthening social cohesion for everyone. That's how I was able to tap into the world mosaic. And no, it goes far beyond that.
Listen, Reverend Doctor, you are giving so much fantastic pieces of information. People, you know where you got to go, man. I said it before. I'm going to say it again. It's Amazon, but most importantly, fakondobooks.com. Pick up Assimilation of Immigrants in the Mosaic Land today. This is one you can't pass up, man. I'm telling you, not only are you going to learn from his journey, but it's going to shift your perspective on where we currently are. And I want to now, listen, in a way, it's going to be paying it forward, right? To listening audience members out there listening in, Reverend Doctor, but it's also going to go take it back in a sense, right? Follow me here. If you could send a message back in time to the young Victor who was just beginning his journey, what would you tell him about the man he would ultimately become and the lessons that he would learn?
Good question. My hope for the readers and my kids, my children, is that we work away with practical ideas and renewed compassion. You know what I mean by that? Whether that means mentoring, if that newcomer coming to the country for a new very first time, supporting them with an ESL. Not many people come in with a degree or have higher degrees or high school and all of that. But there are some programs that I always ask them, hey, why don't you enroll in those programs? Simply learning of a living. This is a message, very strong message, very simple. Count. Immigrants arrive. My invitation for every listener to themselves as part of the story. Because assimilation is not just about them, it's about us. Together we can build a future backed by unity, dignity, and shared purpose. Yeah. And that's why when I look at that, sir, I came up with another book, almost finished that book. I put it, the book title was Hate in the African American and other minorities. Why did I use that title? Because as a pastor, I preach on hate. I preach on how to get together as Christians, how hating each other. And I look at what's going on. And God help us to come together as one unit. Love and compassion. Jesus preached compassion. And he fed 4,000 people who are desperate and hungry. Fucked with him all those years. That's the same idea that I came up with. I really got a book.
My final question here for you. As we close out of here, Reverend Doctor, listen, if we're looking now into the future, right? 10, 15, 20 years down the line, if your book is successful in its mission, in your mind, what does the Mosaic Land look like in 20 years? How will the conversation about immigration and assimilation have changed because of the insights shared in your book or others like yours years from now?
Just to remind you, my listeners, assimilation is not subtraction. It's addition. It's about families belonging without losing their heritage. So I am looking to see, and my prayer is that God had me to see those 20 years from now. I'm praying that everybody else have that cohesion, that idea of saying, this is my neighbor, this is my brother, this is my sister, irrespective of where they came from, irrespective of education they have. If I see them, I see that I don't see no colors in their mind. I don't see no educational background. I see them as one individual, created by God who's in heaven. That's my goal, and that's my prayers. That we take away all that preconceived notion about who that person is. We have to get to a point where if I see Benji Cole, I will see him as my brother. I will not see him as somebody who is different from me, or not from the same mother or from the same father. That's my prayers. Somebody was asking me, if they ever ask you to make a movie, I say that's not my intention. But I want this message to go far and wide. And at least the folks who are behind us who will be striving to see and yet another friend in school or college to see if I see them we all come together, do something common that make it a positive goal.
Reverend Doctor, listen, you were preaching here today. You took us back to church, but in the most resounding way. People, listen, I'm going to say it again. This is so powerful, man. His perspective, his messages found in the book, it's such a great reminder that the immigrant story isn't a sidebar to the American story. Man, it is the American story. I think so often we forget about that. And you look at where we currently are, and I'm not going to get political, man. I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole. We'll leave that for another discussion. But you look at where we currently are, and it doesn't seem like that. The immigrants here in this country, the way we view them, it's almost like second-class citizens, man. And to me, I look at it and I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand, because I remember growing up, the famous categorization was it's a melting pot. It was something that was celebrated, and it's just not happening like that right now. For everyone listening in, man, I encourage you to sit with this question. What is my role in strengthening this Mosaic Land? Because I promise when you start to think about it from that perspective and you really focus on strengthening, not yourself, not those around you, not the ones you specifically care about, strengthening this Mosaic Land, I think you may come to a different final statement, to a different perspective than where we currently are. Allow this book, Immigrants in the Mosaic Land, to be an essential guide for that reflection. And in order for you to do that, man, you got to go to Amazon. You got to go to FakondoBooks.com. You got to thank Victor Fakondo Sr. for comprising such an incredible book. But the journey starts today. The discussion starts today in order to improve tomorrow. So let's get it going, man. Let's tighten up our boots. Let's get to work. Here we go. Reverend Doctor, this has been a true pleasure, man. An absolute honor. I really do mean that. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you very much, Benji Cole.